airplane in the United States for $5,000. And immediately the Wright brothers start suing. In that same year, the Herald Tribune in Paris decided to hold a flying contest, an international flying contest. And they put up $50,000 in a whole bunch of prizes, and anybody can come. And Curtis promptly packs a plane on a boat, goes over to Paris, and he decided not to participate in all the little races, but to just try for the main event, which is the 20-mile distance. And he wins this and is the grand champion flyer, and at a speed of 46 miles an hour. Planes don't have a lot of power yet. It's 1909. He wins $5,000 prize and goes around to other cities in Europe where they will also give prize money, so he'll show off his airplane. The Aero Club, meanwhile, notices other people starting to make airplanes, and they decide to license people as, yeah, he makes safe airplanes, and so Curtis gets the #1 license for being an airplane maker. And at this time, he establishes a flying school for $500. He'll teach you to fly. And also he sets up exhibition companies, because people, all these people are having state fairs and things, they want to have an airplane show off. So for $1,000 he'll send one of his men and a couple mechanics down and show off an airplane for prize money. And then they'll all share the prize money, he and his fellow pilots. One prize that's offered is a big prize of $10,000 by the New York World newspaper. They're having in 1910 the Henry Hudson Festival to celebrate the finding of the river. And what you need to do is fly from Albany to New York City. And Curtis does this 150-mile trip non-stop, and wins a $10,000 prize. And in that year, 1910, is published the first of this series of books, Tom Swift and His Motorcycle. And I hope everybody's heard of these, and I'm not just the only old person in this room. The second book is called Tom Swift and His Aeroplane. The third book is called Tom Swift and His Dirigible. And if you read these, Tom Swift lives in a little town in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes, right beside a lake. I mean, they just stole his life from him. Put these books. But I thought that was funny when I found this out, that that's where these Tom Swift books come from. And there were a lot of firsts for Glenn Curtis. He was the first guy to communicate by radio with a plane in the air to the ground. And one of his exhibition flyers, they were working with the Navy, and they took off from a ship in an airplane, and then later landed on a ship, not the same day. It's much harder to land on a ship than it is to take off. Taking off to landing is hard. And then this Aero Club decides there's a lot of people going around claiming to be pilots, and they decide to license pilots. And everybody is going to have a pilot's license. And guess who gets license #1? Glenn Curtis. Not one of those wrong people.
Not the wrong people?
No, wrong.
They have 2 or 3
That's debunking a myth. I always thought that was...
And at this point he patents ailerons, the little things on the edge of the wings that make the plane turn. And one problem is this planes are starting to go faster and faster, and when you land in some farmer's field, it's the faster you go, the bumpier it is. And there's no airport, so this is the invention of airplanes. Where can we land that's flat? On the lake. And so he invents pontoon airplanes. If you ever seen travel things with people flying around Alaska, they're always on pontoon airplanes because there's lots of lakes and no airports in Alaska. Then it goes from that to flying boats, which is have a boat that will fly in the air. You can carry a lot more people than one of those pontoon things. And the first airplane purchased by the U.S. Navy is one of those flying boats, the A-1 Triad. He invents dual control, where the passenger sitting beside him also gets a wheel, and they can, either one of them, steer the plane and push the pedals. And he sells his first plane in 1911 to the U.S. Army, and it's the first plane bought by the Army. So he sold both to the Army and the Navy, their first things. And Baldwin earlier had sold the original Army. So three hits there. So everything's going fine, except there's terrible grumblings going on in Europe, and the First World War breaks out. And the British are able to, and the French are able to build their own fighter planes, but they need a lot of planes. And so the United States has a lot of capacity. They come over here. And the only guy they find making airplanes in any kind of quantity at all is Glenn Curtis. So they come to him and say, can you make a training plane for us? Sure. He can't do it in Hammondsport. Hammondsport's only 1,000 people. And they're all busy making motorcycle engines and bicycles and motorcycles and things, a few little planes. So he goes up to Buffalo, and boy, are they glad to see him, because they got some empty factories there, and he probably buys two of them and starts manufacturing these little training planes. Eventually, he buys two more factories and then builds the fifth factory, and it is the largest factory on Earth that builds for building airplanes. It's 71 acres under one roof. During the course of the First World War, he turns out 6,800 Jennies. You all know what Jennies are. They're featured on the most famous American stamp.
And that's the most valuable too, they say.
One of these stamps just sold for $3 million last year. A block. So this is the plane, 6,000. And afterwards, all through the 1920s, there were so many of these planes around that whenever you see a movie of people barnstorming, coming into a town and giving a ride for $5, it's one of these planes. They were after the war, they were selling them for $100 a piece. Anybody could have one of these planes.
How many of them are around today?
Is it my duty to keep track of this? I'm afraid I don't know. But everybody learned to fly on them. Lindbergh and Howard Hughes, everybody learned to fly on them. Jenny. As you can imagine, this is a lot of factory activity, and this guy wasn't really raised to be a factory manager, and he let other people take over running these giant factories, building planes, and they pumped up the capitalization of it and bought him out. And so during this First World War, he got $2.3 million in cash and $4.5 million in stock. A lot of money. And in training the Navy guys, they had established a little school out in San Diego. With the press of building and everything going on in the war, they're always really too far away. So somehow I got the idea to come to Miami. And in the winter of 1916-17, he stayed at the Royal Palm Hotel and met people, and met Carl Fisher. And Fisher says, I'll give you my polo fields to have a flying school. So he had his first flying school over there. Meanwhile, the Navy comes to Coconut Grove, and they establish a naval air station in Coconut Grove, where they build a whole bunch of hangars and are busy training Navy pilots. And while he's down here, Curtis becomes friends with this guy, James Bright, who's out in the West, and Curtis loves to go hunting.